So we're going to start this workout on the floor. So you're going to lie on a mat in a nice supported position, knees bent, feet flat on the floor. And what I want you to start to do is really think about engaging your core. And you're just going to put your hand lightly on your stomach and you're going to use your thumb to find the top of your hips, or the top of your ribs, and your finger to find the top of your hips. And you're just going to become aware of the distance of the space there. And what I want you to do is just very slightly pull in and feel a little bit of a closing so that your back starts to just very lightly push onto the floor. So as if you're a little book closing there, bringing your ribs down. So we've got some little bit of tightness here. And now we're going to think about pulling in and across to sort of tighten going towards your belly button. And I just want you to sit here for a minute and just feel that engagement and the tightening of your core. Now, when I was younger, my dad would say, punch me in the stomach, and he'd tense all his muscles in his stomach. And this is the sensation that we're going for. That there's a pulling in, pulling down very slightly, and a pulling in to bring everything nice and tight, and the muscles to feel like they're sort of flat and holding everything in. So we're going to just get that feeling now and just lie there and just start to feel that gentle burn coming into those muscles as we start to engage them. So that's our work to begin with, is to really think about feeling those muscles, being able to switch them on, and just really being aware of all of this area of your abdomen, of your core, holding you in. And then relax. So we're going to do that again, pulling down very slightly, like a centimetre, pulling slightly in, and just hold. And you might notice that your back just pushes slightly into the floor, so you can just feel a bigger connection with the bony part of the back of your hips onto your mat. And as you sit here for a little bit longer, just see if you can tighten that even more and just feel an even bigger contraction, an even bigger burn, and you're just able to hold that and relax and just feel everything soften, feel everything switch off. And then we're going to do it for a last time. So pull everything in, so just pulling your ribs and hips very slightly towards each other, feeling from the outside in, sort of coming and engaging, and then putting your hands back down by your side and really looking to feel the engagement of all those core muscles running from your ribs to the top of your pelvic bone, from your sides and inwards. Everything pulling together, switching on and engaging, and then relax. So the next exercise we're going to do is just tipping our pelvis up very slightly. So we're rolling our tailbone so it pulls up and pushing our back into the floor. And as we do that, we want to again feel that contraction in the lower part of our abdomen now, more between your sort of hips and your pubic bone as you lift up. Okay, so you're rolling up through your hips, lifting your tailbone up, pushing your lower back into the floor, and feeling a squeeze in your core. Feel that burn coming on, and then relax. And again, we're tipping up, raising your tailbone off the floor, rolling up and pushing your lower back into the floor, and feeling everything tighten there. And relax. One more, rolling your tailbone up, feeling that squeeze, lifting your tailbone up and pushing your back into the floor. Just see if you can feel everything tighten a bit more this time, squeeze a little bit more, and then relax. So now I want you to put your hands out to the side, and your knees are going to very slowly drop to one side, just as far as it's comfortable. And then I want you to feel a diagonal force from your ribs, from your hip to your rib, pulling and closing that gap that you've opened in your stomach as your knees have dropped down. So you're using your core to pull your legs up rather than the weight of your legs to swing up. And we're going to drop to the other side, feel that gap opening here, and then pull it together and bring your knees up. So we're going to carry on doing these, and each time we're noticing the stretching open of our core, and then we're thinking about how we pull everything back together as we gently bring our knees back up. So keep going. Feel that widening of the gap between the ribs and the hips, and then start to pull it together and close. We'll do one more on each side. Stretching open, pulling everything back together, knees up. Last one, relaxing the core, allowing the knees to drop, and then pulling everything in tighter through your core to bring your knees up, and then relax. So we're going to bring our knees up and our hands up now, and we're going to feel this contraction again in our stomach, but this time we want to push more firmly into the back of the floor and really feel like we can keep everything controlled and still, and feel that little burn here in the stomach. And then very slowly, you're just going to tap down one foot at a time, and all the time you're trying to feel and maintain that engagement on your core and not let it go. If at any time you feel like you can't hold it, just have a little rest, have a little reset, push your back hard into the floor and carry on. Just very nice and slowly, tapping your feet down to the floor. We're going to do 4 more. 1, pushing your back into the floor each time you come up. 2, nice gentle and smooth and controlled movement. 3, and 4. And then you can just hold your knees into your chest for a minute, relax your stomach, wriggle around a bit, and then put your feet back on the floor. Okay. So now we're going to do a glute bridge. Now for this, we want to feel that we're closing that gap between our ribs and our hips again, to keep everything locked in here. And then we're pushing our heels into the floor to lift our hips up and squeeze the glutes. We want to feel this joint in our hip lock out as much as we can. We're not trying to arch the back to lift as high as we can, because this opens that gap between our ribs and our hips. We're trying to pull that gap, keep that gap the same. So we're keeping our core engaged, and the movement really is just in the hip joint. So we're lifting up and holding with this joint locked out, and now we're trying to think about squeezing our glutes together as hard as we can. Again, until we can start to feel that burning sensation. You shouldn't feel anything on your lower back. We're trying to make our glutes do all the work. And then we're going to lower nice and slowly back to the mat. So we're going to do 4 more of these. So push through the heels, lift up the hips, keep this gap closed between your ribs and your hips, and try and get that sensation of your hip joint not being able to open anymore, and then think about the glutes squeezing hard. And we're going to hold them here and then relax. And as you relax down, see if you can notice the glutes slowly expanding and getting longer as you control that descent back to the mat. We're going to do 2 more. Push the heels into the floor. Think about squeezing your glutes now, and then lift up, keeping that gap closed between your ribs and your hips, locking out through your hip joint, squeezing your glutes really hard, and then very slowly and with control starting to relax the muscles and feel that relaxation as you lower to the floor. We're going to do 1 more. Push your heels into the floor. Try and squeeze those glutes before you start. Keep this gap the same distance between your ribs and your hips. Lifting up till you lock out on the hip joints. Squeeze those glutes. And we're going to stay here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then try and feel the glutes. Slowly releasing and bringing you back down to the floor. So part 2, we're going to be doing 2 exercises, a stand-up squat and some shoulder presses. So we'll do the shoulder presses second. I've got my weights here. So to begin with, we're going to sit on a bench, engaging your core, pull your feet back towards you, but make sure your feet are flat on the floor, and you're going to bend forward at the hips, keeping your back straight, and feel your feet, just adjust your feet until you can feel your weight pushing through your heels, and you're trying to push through your heels to stand up. And when you get to the top, block out this hip joint, squeeze the glutes, and keep everything nice and locked in here. And then we're going to come down slowly, and with control you can bring your hands out if you feel that you need to, and sit down. We'll stay in this slightly forward leaning position now, push through the heels, stand up again, and come down. So we're trying to keep our back flat and not swing our back up and put pressure on the lower back. We're trying to use the feet to push hard into the floor so that it's our thighs and our glutes doing the work at the top, and then coming down nice and slowly. One more, lean forward slightly, push your heels into the floor, driving up, squeeze the glutes by locking out this hip joint, and then sit down again, nice and slowly, and then rest. For the shoulder press, you're going to sit comfortably again. I want you to think about this, engaging your core and feeling this space between your ribs and your hips and locking in and making sure it feels the same on the left and on the right. And we really want to check in with this all the way through because it's actually going to be quite important. We're going to take one weight and do one side at a time. And with keeping this distance the same on each side, we're just pushing this weight over our head and then coming down slowly. But what we don't want to do is feel that we're reaching and expanding on this side of our core. We want to keep this nice and locked in. So with this weight, just go as high as you feel comfortable. The most important thing I want you to do is not to let the core change. So I think I've got 2 more, and that might be 6, but I'm not really counting. One more. Try and get the elbow straight if you can without moving, and swap over. Just have a little bit of a reset. Push up. Again, keeping everything the same here. This is the main area to think about your core. 2. 3. 4. 5. And 6. And rest. And if you want to, you can do that again. Do 6 standing ups, control slowing down, 6 on each side. And as that starts to feel easier over time, you can do 3 rounds of that as well.